Hello, Yoav.
Hello.
How are you doing, sir?
Uh, I'm doing fine. I just came to say hi. I mean, we just finished the Bible study.
Yeah, I saw you guys just
Yeah,
wrapped up over there.
yeah, I will need to go have a rest a little bit between shows. So, but just popped in to say hi.
Uh,
Did you get the hoodies where you are?
yeah. Actually, I'm in the safe room right now. So my kids were here around 10 minutes ago.
Hmm.
Wife, the kids. My daughter, youngest, slept through the whole thing. So like, while taking her out of her bed, bringing her back, she was passed out. So uh,
Yeah,
it's such again, it's a very surreal experience. By now, the kids are sort of like they're just like annoyed at the Houthis, right? It's almost like it's like bothering them, right? It's they're not even thinking about like, oh, it's someone's trying to kill us again. That annoying thing. Um, so yeah. Um, and I'm just coming back from we were like last 3 weeks. We didn't do this class, this review. I was on vacation, work, family stuff. So there's just a lot going on. But I'm glad we're back. Assuming Ben's coming back, I might have misunderstood him, and he's telling me that we're going to be doing this next week. Is that even possible? Because next week is Rosh Hashanah, right? Uh,
it's
yeah, I guess it is possible that he meant next week, which
yeah,
is
could be.
we'll see. I'll hang out for a little. He didn't respond. I wrote to him, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. How about you? Family's okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Um, So, Yoav, how long has it been since you've been in the TLC now? Or in Jacob's Corner? Or in the Jordan Peterson sphere?
Well, I lost count. Uh, I've been lurking for many years.
Right. I guess out of the lurk.
I don't know. I was sort of more than a year, I think.
More than a year. And do you
Just
feel like it was the right
uh,
move to come out?
come out of the lurk.
Yeah.
Well, nothing to be lost, but no, it had to be done because then I can see how the others are reacting to me. Um, some of the reactions are quite surprising. Like people who I thought would know better. Uh, what's going to happen? It's not something about the TLC, it's about me. Is I will get disappointed of people. I will always get disappointed of people. That will, and then I will drift off. So,
Has uh,
actually,
has this experience, considering the fact that it's just you and me talking right now, how has this experience affected, let's say, your your faith or your religious curiosity? I mean, it's I guess as I would say again, these terms are I don't love these terms, but let's say as a secular Jew coming into it's like a weird place to be. Like you're there's like these random observant Jews with different colors, and then there's like this majority of Christians, and you get to see them also like interact. So like how much do you see, I guess, again, if you don't have to answer any of these questions, but how much do you see, let's say, a Yosef or a Jacob or even me as representative of, let's say, do you feel like, oh, I have, that's like a certain representative of what I am, I feel something completely different, I'm exploring something new?
okay. First thing to say is that uh, I can now sound more confident. I can now sound as if I know what I'm talking about. which is a dangerous position because one can fool oneself.
חכמים היזהרו בדבריכם.
I feel connected to you and to the other Jews because of being Jews. It just comes instinctively. Agreeing or not or disagreeing with you about a point just has nothing to do with it. Because I don't expect us to agree. On the other hand, my expectation of you and Jacob is higher than my expectation of any of the Christians in the group. So if I think of, let's say, Green Grease, well, he should not have not better than say whatever he said now. This is much stronger with my brothers, the Jews. Well, they really should have known better and stuck to my view of what is right and what should be said. I did not expect to find answers to any of the great questions. I still do not know why there is evil in the world. I still don't know how the world was created. No story that anybody ever told me in the TLC was free of contradictions. I think I accepted it initially. I did not come with the expectation to find the answers. I keep referring to the model of Jacob's ladder. It's about the climbing and it's not about the reaching.
You feel like you're climbing here?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I'm climbing.
And you feel that, do you feel like now, like we said, like it's been a year out of the lurk, do you feel like you're looking down and you're seeing that, like, I don't know, like necessarily where I'm going in the ladder, but I see that I've moved from point A to point B? Do you?
What is the milestone? What achievement should I expect of myself to achieve? Okay, I achieved this milestone, and this is proof of my progress.
Well,
there is never a milestone.
Again, this could be perhaps irrelevant, but obviously internally in Israel, right, there's a lot of tensions, many different tensions, but like one of them is the Jewish/democratic sort of divide in the country. With your experience in the TLC, again, specifically with the Jews, do you feel like the rhetoric and the language you hear here would be beneficial in, well, I guess it's split into two.
I can answer you quite abruptly, and no, people will not listen to me. It doesn't matter even if I had something important and wise to say, nobody will listen to me. This is
in Israel.
Definitely not in Israel. The TLC is wide. I cannot say that there is nobody in the TLC that will ever listen to me. David is listening, but there is never any clash by design. I will never get with David to a position when he will have to say, well, Yoav was right and I was wrong. This is not the sort of conversation that we are having. So,
Mhm.
well, there is this young Noahide that we had a conversation with him maybe 2 days ago, and I was advising him how to become a man
A man.
and how to catch a wife. Uh, maybe uh, in 5 or 10 years, it will trickle down, and we will say, "Well, I now understand what you was talking about." Maybe, but that is about it.
Okay, so do you feel then? And I used to be sort of feeling like it would. It's I don't know if it's needed in Israel, but maybe I'm wrong. Do you feel like the estuary protocol, so to speak, would be something that you could do in Israel? Do you think like there would be any interest for that here? Do you think what we pulled off here in the TLC with regards to this level of communication is possible to replicate in Israel, or it's you don't see that model mapping on?
It will be applicable in the youth movement, like
Mhm.
Sofim.
Yeah,
This is something that I'm sure they're doing by one protocol or another,
right.
let's say by the ninth grade of school.
So, but then the question is like, is estuary just like is what's novel about it that is just people talking on the internet? Like, is the fact that people could converse and talk and like leave room for someone else to share his, it being successful, so to speak, within these circles and people having like these the South Estuary or like why they're being successful. Like if you're saying like really Chazi, all they're doing is like it's an AA protocol, protocol basically, or it's just like the Boy Scouts meeting. What's novel is like adults manage to like talk again, but like really this is something we should have all been doing anyways.
Yeah, the Gentiles are much better than us in listening. That's for sure. This is why I don't think it will work with Israeli grown-ups.
Can you express? Can
They,
you
they, they,
expand
they,
that?
they, they they just cannot do the listening.
We just can't do the listening because we think we know what you're going to say. We think we know better.
We know what you're going to say. We already know what the answer is, and we are eager to say it.
Do we know what you're going to say though?
Yeah, as many much as an Israeli, yes. One thing I know what you're going to say. I don't expect it to gain any wisdom from the rest. You completing your sentence, and I want to show you how wise I am by finding a very nice, clever contradiction to what I thought you were just about to say.
It's so uncomfortable. That that's so true. Like I'm
I know.
saying, what what is it? Is it just a tradition? Is it just thousands of years of that mindset? Thousands of years
I,
of justifying your existence to yourself as well, like giving yourself.
no, I think it's just something that is very good in the American culture. I think it's not less than a drawback of our culture than a strong point with the American culture, as it used to be, because things are fluid.
I was going to say,
Because
ironically, Charlie Kirk situation doesn't bode so well for the listening.
because I have seen the Americans in operation around the year 1990. I know the Americans of 1990. And that was an example for me. I was just stood with a gaping mouth in awe of how well they can debate.
Yeah, if and this is not recommended to the faint of heart, but if you watch Israeli television, it's just, I mean, it's clearly now there are like, I mean, this is true obviously in the States as well, but like it's just screaming matches all the time. It's just it's 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 upsetting to watch, it's annoying to watch, it's depressing to watch. It's it's yeah, I guess, and then that goes back to, the novelty, I guess, of or the uniqueness. It's not so novel of estuary, which is just sort of like, oh look, we could do this, just after years of forgetting how to do it. But again, I think back here in Israel when I watch the news, or I happen to see like, a discussion devolve very quickly into nonsense, or just yelling. Just how refreshing it would be to just be like have a dialogue. But the fact that you see no one conceding, you see no one changing their mind, it does give you a feel sometimes that it's just sort of like hopeless. Like, like it's
Okay. Uh, when I go back to my American experience, I think the key word here is the protocol. I think that actually the protocol is extremely important. Uh, it will work in Israel if you stress the protocol. If by some way you can enforce the protocol upon the people. Let's say that you're doing the debate online, and there is some kind of an automatic system that keeps the protocol. So if it's not your time to speak, then you're muted. And you train the Israeli with this system for a couple of meetings. Once they adhere to the protocol, it will work.
Do you think it's something worth pursuing?
If you can really enforce the protocol.
I also think to myself that, like, specifically in this time, while there is a need obviously for communication, as I'm sure I would hope you would agree in this country, I feel that the topics are so intense and so exposed, like I'm saying, as far as as far as our skin, that every protocol would just be like, so like every estuary would be so intense. There's it's not going to be just like, whether it's war or let's say religion or hostages. None of these are talks where you could sort of have like this slow roll of, let's say, a place which is full of, let's say, seeking Christians, but there's like this, there's still like this verse of like, we're doing this together. And I feel like in the estuary over here, definitely if it's, let's say, between like divides, like across the aisle, any topic someone's going to bring up, it's going to be like very, very tense.
Okay. Two things. First, in the estuary protocol, when you bring up a subject, you think to yourself, this is my chance to have the subject that I'm interested in discussed. If I bring the subject, whatever subject that is actually a front in an attempt to overthrow the government, because all the current subjects in Israel at the moment are just fronts to overthrow the government. So if you're within the Israeli protocol, you think to yourself, am I going to waste this chance for people to discuss my issue on yet another attempt to overthrow the government? Or maybe just for now, I will discuss something that really interests me personally. I think I think the history protocol will work if enforced. Another reason for great optimism. You know that Israelis tend to be at least the European champions, if not the world champions, in debate. One of my son is actually, from 1 year, he was the European champion in debate.
We're proud.
And this is a formal system. And they were going by the British system. And you have a preset subject. You cannot deviate from the preset subject. If you deviate from the preset subject, you lose immediately. And you have set time. I mean, it's a sportive competition. There's a judge sitting on you with a stopper. So you must adhere to the protocol. And the people that you need to convince are the people that are sitting in front of you in the room, that you're seeing them face to face. No, not somebody in Twitter. And actually, our young generation is very good at it. I mean, world championship quality of good at it. If after some practice, it doesn't come to Israelis naturally. After some practice. So it could have worked. And somebody wrote the Talmud, some generations, we knew how to argue.
I hear you. I'm thinking about what I could do, I get this from Jacob a lot about his disappointment in me taking more responsibility or being more like, whether it's becoming a rabbi or doing more in Israel for like my dialogue with Christians, to people locally over here being also like sort of demanding that these are a lot of things that I discussed at my Shabbat table, and as one does. And there's a question: why don't you do more? Why don't you? Oh, you should do this. You should do that. Go into politics, which is something that I did like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, like 13 years ago or so. I don't know. A part of me always feels like, who am I? Gadol alai, as we say, and
if you went into politics, will anybody listen to you? Do you have any magic formula to make
right.
Make a change?
Right, and unless someone's saying like, oh no, Chazi, the way you specifically articulate it, the way you, but I don't think that's true. I don't think I'm like some sort of magic man. So it's very hard for me. It's almost depressing if you're looking at me as some sort of like even someone that you'd want to represent you, then like we're already lost. You know what I mean? Like I'm a silly person. So like that would be a mistake. In my community, I've spoken about this, right? There is back
I just wanted you to know that I do not have any expectation of you. I don't want you to become anything or do anything that you're not doing at the moment. If I have any criticism of what you're doing, it's like you were there talking to somebody and you said something that I didn't agree with. This is the extent of my displeasure with you. And
how dare you?
I will never ask you to go out of your way.
Well,
you be yourself.
That's true. And again, we're moving this conversation away from me. But while Jacob and I discuss, agreeing the things of we believe of great value, right? If I'm saying Israel should do X and I believe in it Y, and redemption, Messiah. So then one has to ask, like, okay, if you believe in all these things and you want all these things, then step up or shut up in a certain sense, right? Like one that is wants to rectify the world. Um, my brother was talking to someone, and someone was like, "Oh, my brother introduced me to this guy." He's like, "Oh, this is my younger brother, Chazi." He's like, "Chazi," he said, "Chazi really wants the Messiah to come." And I was like, "Okay," and like that was sort of. If you're telling that to someone, that's like an intense thing to say about your brother. But then, like, okay, but what does he do? Oh, he designs homes. Like he has, yeah, sure, he works like with Noahides, and he's in like this weird little world. But what kind of like is that making a difference? I was supposed to have a class right now, which I tell myself it's making a difference. Um, but I digress, or I don't digress, but I was talking about the synagogue in this new neighborhood I'm in. So it came to a head. There was drama, right? There's an egalitarian synagogue, and there's a Sephardic synagogue, and there's a sort of the classic Ashkenazi synagogue. But now there's this other one that I'm involved with that is, let's say, the the quiet or the more traditional synagogue. And by that meaning that we had this tension, which is in the regular synagogue there's just a tremendous amount of kids making a tremendous amount of noise. However, this led to this whole thing where I'm like, this is laboratory conditions, so to speak, for me to like practice, can we kumbaya, right? Within a community of like 400 families that decided to move together, and the divides are within, Jewish people that want to have a synagogue. Yet there's four, right? Now, putting aside the Sephardi, right? Because I'm saying that's, they have a different tradition. I'm trying to have like this dialogue, which is still very, progressive and open. I would say like the healthy version of progressive. While still being very traditional. And um, and I'm trying to bring people together, but alas, I mean, it's not true. We now managed to, and I hope this will be a success. There's large structure that we have now, dividers in the structure, right? But yet all these different people are in one structure. And to me, that's already a certain win. If you talked about this like 50 years ago, I don't know if the Sephardim would even consider having, let's say, a structure that is already together with an egalitarian synagogue. And it's important for me for them to all see each other practically, and maybe here a necessary dialogue or protocol might have worked. But so quickly does it get to tensions and drama and that I want to be optimistic because I see people wanting to still talk and dialogue, and there's a sense of like we could do this together, and it's a place to really to see where I could have uniformity, where I could have unity without uniformity. Right? Like I don't need everyone to necessarily. There's something beautiful. I don't want the Sephardi minion to disappear. So I'm playing with it over here, in a microcosm, but to think of how this scales up, I guess I'm telling myself like, let me see where we are after like 4 years or 5 years in this community, and then I'll see if if there's any message to say. But I guess in my utopian world, we managed to create in this community like a model of, let's say, what the new Hebrew 2.0 looks like, or Zionism 2.0 looks like, because I mean, it's not really true, but there's fairly a wide spectrum over here from, let's say, more American yeshivish, which would be like sort of American Haredi or ultra Orthodox, to secular, and then a lot in between. So we'll see. Gonna just note over here to Claire. First of all, Claire, I hope in your own world you're doing well. Israelis want to overthrow the government.
I was shocked about this comment. Doesn't she know
Right.
that half of the Israeli wants to throw over for the government.
By the way, but it's interesting. I would say there's a minority on the right, that on the religious right, that wants it thrown off because it wants like their version of a theocracy. There are those on the far left. Well, there's the Arab the Arab population out of the 2 million and those that are participating in the political structure that want it gone, because they believe, Israel itself is like, like a travesty and an abomination. There are those Jewish Israelis on the far left that want it to overthrow it, right? And then there are many that want to change it. I see, Claire, you're wanting to join and you have your camera on. That's fine. I will, and this is because this was supposed to be about prayer. I'm going to end this soon. However, I will entertain a few minutes of Claire, as long as you adhere to Jacob's strict rules of behavior. So, welcome.
What the strict rules that you have to say something bad about the Trinity?
No, and not support Israel, I guess. Claire, what's up?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to discuss what you guys were discussing. I mean, I am quite interested in you guys. What Yoav was saying earlier about nobody listening to him. I think this was something Rabbi Mizrahi referred to some time ago in his talks. He was saying, one of these days we will be so bad that none of us will listen to anybody and nothing will be done to solve any problem. And, then, things will go from bad to worse. And I think this must be the problem, that nobody listens to anybody. Children don't listen to their parents. In order to get anybody to do anything, we have to tell them pretty lies. And they think whatever you suggest, they have to like it. And I say, no, you don't have to like it. You will need, possibly a life-saving operation, and you won't enjoy the process. Maybe your leg is to come off, or you have to have open heart surgery, or your tumor has to be operated on. You won't like it, but it will be life-saving. And if you're not going to be grown up enough to understand what needs to be solved, how the problem needs to be solved, then it will never be solved. And I fear so many men have turned into children. I mean, I listened to Jacob's group of Christians, and I don't know. I mean, I listen as a woman, right? And they're just so unattractive and so stupid and so confused, and they don't know who they are, and they don't believe in Christianity, but they want everything to be like it was when they were children, when their parents took them to church, and they don't really believe. I mean, that is a problem. Nothing can make them believe in Christianity ever again. While I think the Jewish and the Islamic faith, it makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's logical.
I mean, there's a lot you're saying over there, a lot of different topics. So I'll jump on a few, and you'll see. I guess we'll see where it goes and where we bite. But I'll start on the shortest note, just with regards to our Christian brothers and sisters. There's a lot of confusion out there, and I believe that many of them, or the many that I interact with over here, in Hebrew it's called Shema, for heaven's sake. I believe a lot of people are here, even in their confusion, are doing so because they are all seeking a relationship with the master of the universe. And that's why in this day and age, my framing is very much that, as the prophet said, that every knee will bow and every tongue shall swear, with the Muslims and the Christians, and the Jews, of course, but the Jews are obviously a minority, but we could even throw some of the Eastern religions into there. In their own manifestations, they are still all trying to reach out to the one and only. And that's why I'm billions in the world are making their way towards there. So I'm generally happy. You could then dissect, which Jacob does and what we're doing often, where those differences are, where actually there are logical fallacies, and that's a more robust conversation. back to the first thing you mentioned, which was about people not talking and Rabbi Mizrahi. So first of all, I wouldn't take Rabbi Mizrahi too seriously, or as being representative of Jewish faith.
Your audio is fading, Hezi. To me
Sorry.
anyway.
What about now?
Better now.
Okay, sorry. I was saying I wouldn't take Yosef Mizrahi as any authority, Rabbi Mizrahi as any authority, and not a representative of the Jewish faith necessarily, or an Israeli as far as like the majority opinion or representative of, let's say, your average Israeli. With regards to the process of people, men being boys, or people living in like sort of the coddling of the American mind, but you could talk about the coddling of the Western mind. The example you see with that right now is Israel and how it's manifesting its war right now and how the world is reacting to that, right? So this is clearly, and let's say, how does he call it? The Weinstein brother calls it the great nap, right? So whether it's a Christian ethic of turn the other cheek, or whether it's people living in this reality of, let's say, when you see signs like queers for Palestine, these are a whole world living in denial, not realizing that there are bad people out there in the world, that there are differences between ideologies, that there are differences between cultures. And all this, the example I always use is also the fact that the word literally today in the dictionary also means figuratively, right? When you're living in a world where words mean the exact opposite, or genders could be, you could go either way or be fluid about them. And of course, even misunderstanding who the good guy and who the bad guy is. And by
That's
that,
why we need rules, right? And then we go to the laws of God, and then we think we have the answer. I mean, that is, I think you were trying to talk about fundamentalism. How literally should we take, what we say? Are we just joking? Are we, being ironic and satirical, and so we can say yes and no at the same time? I did say those things, but it was just a joke. Can't you,
Well, yeah, I mean, Charlie Kirk is literally a Nazi. Will be interpreted, I guess. So you meant literally, so that's why I killed him. Unless you meant figuratively, and that's why. Oh, okay, but that's not the narrative I'm necessarily hearing. I mean, and obviously,
yeah. So we have to question the word Nazi. Like, was he really a Nazi, or did you get it wrong? I mean, this is how lawyers operate, right? Was my client guilty of this crime, or did you, or he wasn't, or he wasn't even him?
This is one of the reasons why I left the law profession 11 years ago. Thank God, because very much it was a world in Hebrew. It's called sheker, a world of lies, and I had a very, very uncomfortable time over there with how I saw it. It was really about even just like how one bills for their hours. Just the whole operation itself is very problematic, and that is why I find a certain amount of satisfaction and solace in the job I do now, which is building something for someone. Just knowing that I could create a product, I could build a product for them, I could achieve a goal and a budget, and be able to give some of that experience of what I said actually happened is, in a fallen
yes, and
world,
something to show for it.
Yes,
and
so
client who's happy with you.
And I try to do that using a very materialistic field.
Mm-hmm.
Most, I would say 99.9% of my clients are observant or Jews, and they vary within that title. But helping them transform something materialistic into something ideally for a spiritual orientation or purpose is the greatest feeling when we manage to pull that off. It's sometimes difficult, and sometimes it's a little framing that we give ourselves, but there's only a certain amount of truth in that. Sometimes someone just really loves that blue tile in their bathroom. I could tell myself
a second.
Please go.
I had a feeling that Claire came here with a certain question. I thought was hearing a question. And then with so much, the conversation went on, and I just lost
Her question.
trace of the. What, Claire? Can you repeat? What is your question?
I made a comment about my being surprised that Israelis want to overthrow their government because they hate their government so much, and I think Gentiles can identify with that, except that a lot of Gentiles think you're responsible for their bad government, and that's why they hate you so much. And I would like to give you my theory of why, if God exists, Gentiles have been programmed to hate Jews when they suffer from their own bad government. They'll always think, you guys did it. And I'm saying there is a way of getting out of it. And you were talking about Noahidism and how Yoav was trying to advise Kirk, who just turned 18, about women. And he was talking about dating apps. And I would say dating apps would be banned under secular Quranism because they are in fact apps for fornication, and this would delay marriage and possibly put a woman in a position of wanting an abortion or give forth illegitimate offspring. So I'm just saying men and women need to know what the rules are, and if they don't, everything falls to pieces. They will get a labor shortage, which will be solved short term by immigration, and everybody will complain and everybody will hate their government, and then they'll want to overthrow their government, particularly when their government involves their country in stupid foreign wars.
Okay. Everybody hates the Jews, and
because you never told the Christians that Christianity is idolatry, and that Christianity is not Noahide.
Well,
only Islam is. If there's any religion, that's Noahide.
It's something that happened in the 7th century. There was a century and more of us telling them in quite strong words. But okay, not today. But it is my realization that it will never stop. They will never stop hating me. That makes me a Zionist, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to come here, and we're going to gather together, Chezi and I, and a small group of people, and we're just going to defend ourselves as much as we can. Because that's the best.
Israel is an American colony. They sent you here to fight.
I wanted to get to that. They have not sent us, but yes, in fact, today cannot argue against the fact that we are, to a great extent, an American colony, and which explains why we want to overthrow the government. Because there was a period of a certain party ruling the United States, let's say from Obama to Biden. And at the moment, I mean, it will be beyond any dispute if I said that those people are purely evil. I don't think there's anybody will argue the point that they are the evil incarnate. And in as much that we are an American colony, and we are, then that is infiltrated into our society. And there are puppets, I call them puppets. They think they are clever than I am. That's a point of view. But I call them puppets. They are puppets who are hating the government and wants to throw away the government for reasons that are purely evil. I mean, yes, one could have legitimate criticism of the government always, and one can express it in the next elections. But what has happened here is clearly a shadow of the evil that is the evil spirit that is blowing from America. As to the history, America didn't get involved in the Middle East in 1967. You must have heard about the affair of a ship called Liberty, and which is an example of us really cannot in 1967 not being even to identify an American ship when we see one. We thought it was an Egyptian ship. That was how much we didn't know anything about the Americans by 1967. But okay, that never mind.
Are you talking about the USS Liberty?
Yes.
Yes.
But never mind.
Okay.
It is interesting today. The two of us an agreement that there is an evil spirit blowing from America and is chilling our streets. And with God's help, with the help of lots of good people, there are some good people in America, it turns out. We will get over it.
I'm just gonna
close the stream.
Now I'm gonna close the stream, but I'm gonna say and not.
But you haven't said anything about Calvinism yet.
Right.
Maybe next time.
Israel is a American colony, just like all the other countries in the world that had to deal with the fact that America is an American. Now, so having said that, right, and now that we're all, so none of us are. Yes, of course America, or the manifestation of, let's say, the archetype of Edom, right? I'm talking about from like a biblical perspective. Like, yeah, it's not weird to me that we still have to deal with this entity in the world, and that entity at its best, right? Whether it's the Declaration of Independence and its manifestation, true Jewish values, is trying to do one thing, and at times it's in complete chaos, as we see right now. Having said that, Israel definitely, I mean, again, in my mind, and of course, I apologize to Jacob saying this, but the miracle of Israel, to my estimation, cannot be denied, and that doesn't. And I'm okay of the disregard America gave us while our brothers and sisters were in the camps, and the protection they gave us now of the tune of, let's say, just the ballistic missiles they were stopping from Iran at the tune of $500 million, right? All those things are all fine with me within the biblical narrative that we're living in. You are right that in this day and age, 80 years or close to 80 years of Israel's establishment, of the state of Israel's establishment, you're right. As it becomes more in tune with its own identity, right, and some of that unfortunately is due to crisis as well, it will also grow and mature and detach from America. And what I hope is only to be able to then return as stronger and independent allies. And this, of course, has to do with Israel's own manifestation. But the fact that even you would come and say there's elements about it that are an American colony, that's true. But I see this all of the exoskeleton of exile. And slowly but surely, we have to shell these things off. It's not possible for us to just come back to the land and in one moment. It's sort of my argument constantly with Jacob about the temple. It's not something that happens in one day. It's something that happens with us wanting it to happen and then building towards a reality like that. And if we manifest it, I hope, like Yoav is saying, that the good people around the world, and especially the good people in Israel, will be able to orient themselves properly, right? Steer away from sin. And it's great to see you too, Jason, my beautiful friend.
Yes, but if you live under a liberal democracy and you have gay parades in Tel Aviv, then I guess you're not, fulfilling even the minimum standards of the no high laws.
I would disagree with that. And this is the big question also with what does it mean as an Orthodox Jew, of me wanting a Jewish state or a Torah state or a theocracy, I guess, in a certain sense.
Mm.
And this is these are all these conversations are miles deep, and there's probably better
Well,
more.
the secular Jews are in control of, the police and the army and, all the other stuff. So it doesn't look like you guys are going to get your way, even if you
I
actually
don't even
ask
know
for it, which you haven't.
my way. So that's what I was going to express. There's a boogeyman version of my way, which is I want to turn Israel into Iran, right? Or there, for example, I'm controlling the sex life, the people's inside their rooms, which is nonsense. I'd also say that, like, while the army is secular, over 50% of the officers in the army are observant. While the army is secular, there are the army, and before people go into battle, they're all reciting biblical verses and prayers, right? The army and the country is secular, yet on its founding papers and documents, right? We're here because of the vision of the prophets, right? So I don't know what prophets they like. Some secular people think they're talking about, but I know which prophets they're talking about. And the fact that built into, I don't have to. I won't stress this point. I want to go back for a second and just mention that the boogeyman that they're talking about is not something that I'm trying to manifest. I think that Israel could have Israel could be a country and a state where it is being guided by the laws of the Torah. And again, even this is a process that takes time. That doesn't
But
mean
it would be stricter than Iran. That's the
No, it
thing.
wouldn't.
You guys have 36 capital offenses. That's
But
very scary.
Claire, I'll give you. It all has to be in context of our the full canon, right? So you could look at a certain verse in Deuteronomy or Leviticus and say, like, wow, that's intense. And then it has to be seen together with the commentaries of our sages and the fact that in our relationship with God and and the co-creative aspect of that allows for interpretation and evolution, as long as it's being done in for heaven's sake. Now, again, that's a longer process that we could discuss what that means. But I will just give you an example in the Talmud, which people like to quote these days, which is that a violent a court would be one that would be sentencing someone to death once every 70 years. So while there's many capital offenses, practically, how do they come to be? Right? We'll see that the judges come and say, I need to have two witnesses. They can't be related. I need the guy to admit that he actually knew they were watching him. And even after he does all these things and he admits and they knew and they saw him, then we might say that he must be crazy. And if he's crazy, then we still won't use the capital punishment. All these things have to be interpreted through the lens of the halacha, and those are interpreted through different mechanisms and tools that one can reform the Torah, which, by the way,
yes, but the principle is that even if the person were actually guilty of it, but that sentence is too harsh for breaking the Sabbath, and that would come into conflict with the First Amendment, which gives freedom of belief. So I guess there is a problem there, but you can resolve it by saying only if you properly believe will you get to heaven, right? You know, because idolatry is thought crime. You can refrain from bowing before idols, but if you conceive of God as Jesus, then you're actually guilty of it. Maybe this is something that should be discussed by rabbis, which I know that, I know they don't want to offend all these Christians, because currently Israel is being run by the principles of Christian Zionism. The Christians are in control. They're converting you to Christianity and calling you Messianic Jews. This is what Tovia Singer is trying to prevent.
I want to put my point of view into it.
Please.
In 1948, we elected the State of Israel, and we had parties before the parties were actually fighting each other. They were actually killing each other with warm weapons. They were firing cannons at each other. One party was the extreme communists, party. If you think about all those kibbutzim, that I was actually living the way of communism, and the party of no private ownership, but ownership by cooperatives. The other party was the right-wing party that is nowadays being compared to the Nazis. And at 1948, they just decided to lay down their arms and join together and form one army. And the right-wing party dismantled their underground organization. The left and the party dismantled the Palmach, which was the revolutionary guards, and they just from one day to the next erected the Israeli army. Now, this is only possible because we have always, as a religion, being democratic. The decision of what rules we are actually following in practice was always be taken democratically. And there's this story about us arguing about the proper way to build an oven, and God himself is speaking and telling us about the way to build an oven, and we have a democratic vote about it, and we just decide the other way, because the democratic vote is what leads us as not the voice of God, the actual story. So we will never be a theocracy. It's just not what Judaism ever was. Now, I for myself is a liberal. I believe that everybody should be allowed to practice his religion without interference. The problem now, Chezi is being stopped, is being barred from practice his religion in my city. He cannot make a prayer in public. He cannot make a congregation according to his custom. And I, as a liberal, immediately, actively jump on the inside, because he is the minority and he is being offended, and I must come to his rescue.
You know, people are being prevented from praying. You may have heard that in the UK there was this Catholic woman outside an abortion clinic, and she was just standing there and looking sad. And when the police asked her what she was doing, she said she was praying, and then they arrested her. But also Muslims in Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, they're not allowed to pray, but obviously when they pray, they're kind of intimidating because there's so many of them, and it creates quite a spectacle when they do it. So they're also forbidden from praying in Hyde Park or any of the royal parks, I guess.
I make sure that in all my construction sites, all the Palestinian or Arab workers have a dignified and separate room where they could pray, and I give them an attitude if I see them like praying on like cardboard instead of bringing their own prayer rug or leaving one on site, because I'm like, demand better for yourself. You're speaking to Allah. Why keep doing this? So
oh, very good.
People going to church or Muslims praying, the more the merrier. Praise the Lord.
Yes. Yes.
On that note, on that unifying note, Claire, I'm sure you have many more questions, and I guess next time this random group of buddies emerges, you're welcome to join. To those who are looking to hear a class about prayer and the Shema, I'm sorry for the misscheduling. I guess Ben meant last week, since it's an hour in and he didn't show up. So I guess it's next Thursday. Yoav, any last words? And Claire, you can also share some last thoughts if you'd like.
Well, thank you for letting me speak and allowing me to make my points. I mean, I am concerned about the way the thing is going, and I think a lot of these violent territorial disputes could be solved just by looking at theology, and it would be more civilized and peaceful if we could just do it that way and take the theology of the religion that we're supposed to believe in seriously enough to argue about it. And I hope Jews
I
and
agree.
Muslims will perhaps one day soon together get it together to tell Christians that that there may be a problem with the Trinity, and this
I
is
think
my fervent hope.
so. Claire, just sorry, you were going to say something. Just on that note, first of all, I agree that the only way that the Palestinian and Israeli conflict, and more specifically the Arab and the Western conflict, get resolved is when we see ourselves as Jacob, or really as Israel, or really as Jeshurun, but our biblical self. And I think we have to speak respectfully to our Muslim brothers as Ishmael as well. And there's a lot of ramifications to that, even from the political point of view, and even how you'd actually have solutions and right of return and all that good stuff. It could only be discussed properly once we see ourselves to who we are, right? Like, I don't see
what you're supposed to be, even if you're not quite there yet.
Sure. By the way, yes, and I think it's the responsibility of Isaac is to bring Ishmael back into the tent, Abraham's tent, and I'm not claiming that we right now are Isaac. We're like Israel, the state of Israel, the secular state of Israel. With all my love to it, is not yet the manifestation of what it's supposed to be. And a lot of that has to, of course, do with its understanding of theology, and of course also its understanding of how to properly be a democracy as well. With regards to the Christians, though, the most, let's say, the widest net I have as an Orthodox Jew is the opinion of a very, very serious and respected rabbi who comes and says that Christians, right, are not idolaters. Rather, they are considered Noahides. Having said that, they are practicing it's a very, very convoluted and misshapen version of faith. Okay, now that is the most correct, Shituf. But even then, there are some that say Shituf, but Shituf is okay even with idolaters. I just give you an opinion that says they're not even considered idolaters, like they don't see Muslims as idolaters. Now, even to that opinion, right, rabbis, and I'm saying that's the progressive opinion, is still saying to our Christian brothers and sisters, you're still off the mark. Now, having said that, at this day and age, it's not necessary for me to keep on saying that, because it requires a bigger power to have that. I see within, and definitely within the TLC, these conversations of Christians trying to redefine or seek or try to understand. That is what that process looks like, of them, I believe, deconstructing or reconstructing and still dealing with this concept of Jesus. As a Jew, at this point, I'm here to support believers that are trying to connect to the Father, even if there's an intermediary there, because A, I have that tool at my disposal. B, I believe it's larger than us. I believe now we're supposed to be pushing the narrative of seeing each other and understanding that there's a demand from us to all up our game. And I believe, even like I was saying earlier, with the tradition that Jews have with understanding our text, we need to be offering that to our Muslim brothers and sisters to help them reform and move forward while maintaining the sacred aspect of the Quran or of Muhammad, peace be upon him. And there's a character named Jesus. I don't need to interact. They know I don't see him as the Father, right? They know I don't see him, or right over here, Christ is King, right? They see this. There's a powerhouse. I choose to believe, and I believe that there's enough room, right, for the narrative, right? Because we could live in a multiverse. There's many narratives, roads we could go down. The road I'm going down to is Christ is King, is saying the Father is King. And there's a convoluted way of how that's being understood. And to me, that is still close enough to see those people as my partner and then move forward with them. That doesn't mean blindly agreeing with everything they're saying. And like, I think Jacob does a great job calling everyone, including me, an idolater or a heretic, or, everyone, he's giving it to everyone. But I see these people as good, loving people that want to make the world a better place, and that attitude needs to be championed. So that's why I don't see the need to beat on the drum of being like idolater. I have room to call them a brother, even if we are walking a different path right now. And who are we, whether it's Muslims or Christians or Jews? Once the Messiah comes, of course, whatever he says, we'll accept. So like, it's just, at this point, let's move forward together.
Mm.
I know this might sound too kumbaya to you, Claire.
Well, I'm not going to say anything because I know you're trying to wind this up.
Yeah, I am. To be fair, I did take prerogative. So sorry, Yoav, hit us.
Well, thank you for having me for this very constructive theological discussion, and I hope there will be more because I think it's so important. And yes, I'm grateful to Jacob for providing this platform so we can all bring our theological concerns and denounce each other in a safe space.
But I'm looking at Young God's comments and you speaking over here with all your baggage, right? The Jacob likes to like drop also your history and things like that. But we're all trying to move towards him. And and the reason I say that, you obviously, I allow myself to say that about you because you said with the help of God, right? So I'm saying I didn't even qualify what that exactly means. So again, Jacob creating this platform, and if this is the conversation in 2025, I don't know. I feel like this wasn't the conversation during the Abraham times, and I feel to have a conversation like this, ultimately, God expects much more from us, but to even have a conversation like this. And to even think of your pictures, Claire, right, with certain flags in the background. Yet, you're hearing my conversation.
And it took place on your channel, Hezi.
Did it take place on my channel? Yeah. I think this.
Well, it is your channel, isn't it?
It's also streaming on my channel, but I'm probably going to take it off my channel or move it just because the title is called the Shema thing. So, or maybe I actually did just change to just chatting. But
it's changed to just chatting.
I need to move it to an appropriate thing
It's
or cut
not-
some of it out. But
Not just chatting, it's very meaningful chatting. It's grade A super chatting, not just
grade
chatting.
A super chatting. Sorry, Yoav, I keep on. Sorry, go. Take us to the promised land. Wrap us home. Take us home. How many American Jews secretly wish that Israel would just quietly go away? I don't know. We have to also qualify the 5.4 million Jews living in America. There's like the 1 million, let's say, Orthodox sort of observant, or let's say, I would say they wouldn't. Maybe there's a little less than that. Then the rest, you have to cut out all the ones that have like, I don't even know are even culturally Jewish. Then their opinion matters obviously much less. Then there's the ones who are culturally Jewish. Does their opinion matter so much? Because I can't blame them from like having a misunderstanding of how they view it.
My answer: people do not know what they want. People do not know the true feelings.
We got blessed, yo. By you're saying that you have so many Jews living in America? Sure.
Chezi, it's almost 10:30. You need to get to sleep. It's a working day.
Goodbye, people. Take care.
Bye.